Good afternoon. Everybody back, and how did you all enjoy your boxed lunch? Yeah, special thanks to Unilever Food Solutions for that. Delicious plant-forward food to get us started for the afternoon. I wanted to make a couple of announcements before we get started here. Let's see if this comes up on screen. Oh, there we are. So again, follow along with recipes and presentations with your app. You've mastered the app, you're shooting all over the place with the app, and you know exactly where the presentations are, so you followed, and if you're having trouble, our staff is in the back or outside in the atrium to answer your questions. I also wanted to just remind you all that we really count on your feedback in terms of what you want to see next year, what directions in terms of programming, what you liked and didn't like in terms of conference format, all those kind of things. We take those very seriously. We read all the comments, and so please be sure to when you do the survey on the app. And then I just want to mention just a couple of other programs that we have coming up. How many of you have ever been to a Worlds of Flavor conference that we put on? So a number of you. The largest conference we do every year is called Worlds of Flavor. We've been running, this is our 21st year coming up. It's held in California. It'll be in November the 6th to the 8th. It'll be at the Copia campus, which looks like this. You saw that in my opening slide. Absolutely gorgeous facility at the heart, the opening of the Napa Valley, at the bottom of the valley. And going back 20 years ago, we could see this World Flavors really coming in. And one of the things we realized, and I think for those of you that work in food service operations or work with chefs or are chefs, you know that once you get out of culinary school and once you're embedded in an operation, it's really difficult when somebody says to you, you should be doing more Mediterranean food, or you should be doing some more Latin food or something. It's like, that wasn't my training. I don't really know that. And then if you try to grab, whatever is in your neighborhood in terms of ethnic and immigrant restaurants, they may or may not be good. And we said, let's once a year bring together what we consider to be the gold standards of world cuisines. And so each year we fly in somewhere between 60 to 80 chefs from a particular part of the world. We've done that with Spain, we've done that with Japan. This next November, we're looking at the flow of sort of flavors and ideas and cultures and cuisines across the Mediterranean through the Middle East into South Asia. It's not a health and sustainability conference, it's a culinary conference, but incidentally, that is, in terms of mining flavor ideas and techniques, that this is one of the richest parts of the world to look at. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And we're offering to the folks here a 15% discount the registration price, which you can go through the website to find. And again, we'll be bringing in chefs from all over that region. And then the other one I wanted to mention is, I mentioned briefly in my opening remarks, is the Global Plant Forward Culinary Summit, which will be in April of next year, April 22nd to the 24th, in the Napa Valley, also at Copia. And the idea for this was a little bit of a mashup, actually, and for those of you that have now been to Menus of Change, Worlds of Flavor, you'll understand this, but really looking at what is that sort of all culinary, it's 100% culinary focus on, building on the Menus of Change principles, building on the plant-forward platform, and then looking at what's being done in Asia, in Africa, in the Mediterranean, in Latin America, and so forth. So put those on your calendar for sure. And then we're now going to, let's see, follow along with you. I got that. Just got to check my list here, or I'll be chastised when I get off the stage. Good. So I think what we're going to do now is we're very excited for some of the afternoon sessions. And to get us started, we're going to, it's my pleasure to introduce a senior leader with WeWork. I think all of you are familiar with incredible success that WeWork has seen. And joining us today, this afternoon, at the intersection of sustainability and business innovation is Roee Adler. Roee is a longtime team member at WeWork, joining as Chief Product Officer in 2013. Over the years, Roee has built WeWork's product management, software engineering, digital design, and data analysis groups. He is now spearheading WeWork Labs, the company's program to power early-stage startups in corporate innovation. He is particularly passionate about WeWork Food Labs, an arm of WeWork Labs dedicated to powering the future of food, supporting growing startups across the food and agriculture ecosystem as part of the We Company's commitment to sustainability. Roee started programming at the age of 11 and proceeded, I'm sure all of you started at that age as well, and proceeded to lead a software development company group in the Israeli army. So incredible background in the technology sector. You know, again, with a $44 billion valuation, WeWork has an impressive global footprint. They made news last year when they announced a ban on red meat at company events and a decision to no longer reimburse employees for meals which included red meat, pork, or poultry. So lots of innovation at WeWork. Please welcome Roee Adler.
Hi everyone, my name is Roee Adler and I'm one of the first employees at WeWork, currently heading an organization called WeWork Labs, which is our global platform for startups and corporate innovation. And I am deeply humbled and grateful to be speaking to you all today about how we found ourselves playing a role in the food ecosystem, some of the things that we're seeing and some thoughts that we have where we would love to collaborate and to partner and think together with many of the people and amazing organizations that are represented here. For a bit of context, WeWork was founded by these two ridiculously tall gentlemen, Adam Newman and Miguel McKelvey. Adam grew up in a kibbutz in Israel, which is sort of a socialist, agriculture-based village. And Miguel grew up in a commune in Eugene, Oregon, where a group of mothers raised children together with no fathers in the picture. And these two individuals who grew up in some of the most communal settings in the world met each other at the cold, heartless, lonely metropolitan that is Manhattan, and they bonded over lack of a sense of community in the big city where you can live with someone in the same building for 10 years and never know their name. And especially and in particular, if you want to have a small business and run it, especially back at the time, which both of them were involved in. And so about 10 years ago, they started planting the seeds for what would become WeWork. And the idea behind it was build a village in a building, a village that would cater mostly to small businesses because they are the ones for whom the gap was the largest, where someone will care about who you are and what your challenges are, both personally and professionally, and you can get there anything from an office and free coffee through business advice and a smile, a very personal approach. And it definitely hit a nerve. I joined the company in 2013. We added 2 buildings that year. And we felt like we are a fast-growing company. These are actual buildings that we opened up, not eyeballs or clicks, right? But then we worked harder and we brought in some amazing smart people, and the goddess of luck was definitely strong on our side, and 2014 looked like that for us in openings of new buildings. But then 2015 came along and made 2014 look like that. And then suddenly, in 2016, some of the largest companies in the world come to us and ask us to take them in as well. Hundreds of Microsoft employees join the community, and large companies start taking floors or even entire buildings. And then suddenly, in 2017, we are serving tens of thousands of cups of coffee a day across our community. And suddenly, in 2018, we are catering over 1,000 events monthly all over the world. If you recall that year I joined, 2013, where we added 2 buildings that year, and it felt like high growth. Today, we're opening every month between 20 and 40 buildings. When you grow that fast, you constantly encounter challenges. And while many things from the outside may seem like a success, internally we constantly have successes and failures. And we've become great believers in this concept called the growth mindset, which basically means every failure is an opportunity to learn. We would often hit a wall, either literally or figuratively, and we won't expect that wall to be there. We would be faster than anyone's ever been before, and there's no solution. So what do we do? Or something that seems to be easy to do, but then surprisingly is actually very difficult. So we developed this mentality of constantly trying to look for solutions. Sometimes we will find a solution in a completely different industry that we can bring into our industry. But more often than not, we sadly had to invent our own solutions for many of the problems we encountered. With that in mind, about a year ago, it was time for us to survey our sustainability footprint. Now, WeWork is actually rooted, its initial version was actually a company called Green Desk that was founded by Adam and Miguel, and they worked on it for a couple of years, where sustainably purchased everything was at the core of what we do. And so WeWork's roots go back to a DNA of sustainable purchasing, but now with about almost 500 buildings and almost 500,000 people in 26 countries, I think, in over 100 cities, who spend most of their waking hours inside our product, it felt like a top-level analysis was timely. So we asked a few questions, we made a few realizations, and those led to some very quick actions. And one of the biggest realizations that we have was that we must go meat-free. As a large food customer, buying food in many countries, again, catering thousands and thousands of events, when you look at the meaning and the ramifications of buying meat and poultry, it felt to us like, who would not take that decision when confronted with that data? So we wanted to go to work, so we did what we always do. We tried to find all of the companies in the world that buy food for many people in many countries in a meat-free setting, or with sustainability procurement pipelines that are similar to what we were trying to do. We smelled far and wide and tried to invite all of those companies to a party where we can learn from their operations. And it was a very lonely and sad party. No one showed up. We could not find a single company in the world that was at our scale or larger that buys food for many people in many countries and does not include meat and poultry in their procurement pipelines. And that was a devastating moment because we knew it was going to be a lot more difficult than what we thought. So we started studying it. First of all, we just rolled down that decision. We literally stopped allowing meat and poultry to be purchased. Clarify, we do not tell our employees or our members what to eat. Everyone can eat whatever they want. Our decision was about how can WeWork funds be spent. If you want to eat a steak, but not at WeWork's expense. Makes sense, right? And as I started personally learning about the food ecosystem and the different pieces, what works, what doesn't, I have to say, some things just became completely crazy. I would encounter all of those things that are so weird and seem to be some even completely dysfunctional, and yet humans are roaming the earth, buying and eating food, being oblivious to the convoluted structure of the food ecosystem, the often unhealthy, the sometimes just plain weird ways things work. And it really brought to memory a very famous Simpsons scene where Mr. Burns goes to the doctor to get a checkup. And Mr. Burns is a metaphor for the food industry here, partly because through all that, the food industry seems to behave as if it is, well, indestructible. Can we play the movie, please? Thank you. even a slight breeze. And I mean, you can always count on the 4th best TV series in history to deliver the right kind of reference. We realized that the world wasn't built to support our choice. There's an amazing amount of amazing innovators working on such novel solutions, but it is so difficult, sometimes impossible for them to break out and reach true success. So what can we do? We try to look into ourselves and see what are some ways in which we are different, in which we can do things that for us will be much easier versus for others. And while we rolled down that operational decision, our realization was that we're on the one hand, and I hope that doesn't sound like vanity, I think it's fair to say we are experts on startup success. WeWork Labs is one of the largest communities of startups in the world. Many of our team members are successful serial entrepreneurs. And on the other hand, we're an activist customer, great buying power, and we actually care about what we buy. So on the one hand, we can help startups working in this field find more success, kind of faster, larger. And on the other hand, we can either be the customers or the benefactors of that work that we helped. And that's a very powerful and unique position we discovered because we control our own destiny. No one can sway us from doing what we think is right, long-term or short-term. Drum roll. Enter Food Labs. Food Labs is our highly intentional effort to bring together the greatest minds working on the future of food into one space where we can help them both ourselves explicitly and by bringing various different food corporations to co-locate together with them. This is a highly economic effort for us, but we also have a secret agenda. Please don't tell our CFO. This may allow us to play a small part in fixing food. What is Food Labs? It's going to start anchored in physical space on West 25th Street on the High Line in New York City. We have already a temporary space filled with startups downtown. And that space is going to have various R&D facilities, showcase facilities for startups, kind of an oasis for inventors in the field, but also multiple floors that are reserved for large corporations who want to be nearby. It's also, we've assembled a phenomenal team, and we also think it's going to be beautiful, according to the work that's being done now. What can startup expect? Education, mentorship. We already signed on a few amazing people who want to be part of this project for good. And in addition to workshops, etc., there will be very unique distribution opportunities, both by us, because we are a buyer of food and we have retail spots all over the world, but through the corporations that have already joined and will join us later on to increase a startup's presence among large food corporations is something that's very unique. In addition, we're going to have an accelerator in the space where we invest money in those startups. Applications are closed for this round, and we are in the final selection process. And very interestingly, as I've already touched, we do invite large food companies to co-locate their innovation labs, innovation teams with us so that they can engage with the bleeding edge work that's being done. But also something that at WeWork Labs we've become experts in other areas, which is we can tailor startup programs because of our global network of startups and be able to source teams to work on specific issues that some companies are interested in. We think it's pretty cool, and the signals that we've seen and the startups in the temporary space seem to already be getting a lot of value, which is awesome. And with that, I'm not an expert on food. Everyone here knows more about the food industry than me. Nevertheless, I would like to humbly share a few observations as an outsider, and may my semi-informed thoughts be helpful in any way. The first one is that I have found that the forces for good in this industry often resort to shame as a mechanism of driving change. And narratives such as, if you won't stop with that behavior, you're going to destroy the planet, sometimes result in the opposite. And so, if given the stage, I'm going to try to coin a new industry term, Let's see if it works. And I propose a new term. That term is flotscatarian, which is the person who makes others feel bad about their choices. Used in a sentence, this flotscatarian won't leave me alone about eating cheese. Screw him, I'll eat more cheese. Trying to say shaming behavior may result in the exact opposite kind of behavior than the one intended. We need to find positive ways. We need to find better, tastier ways to make our point. The etymology, by the way, goes back to German and the word fart being used to describe, about it yourselves. Be a flexitarian, which is where we have taken phonetic inspiration. Be a flexitarian, not a flotscatarian. My second thought is, this is an ecosystem where you would have expected the regulators to come in and change a few things, but they don't. And you have amazing organizations that are trying to educate consumers, but with limited success. And I personally hypothesize, and betting kind of my own career, if you will, on the thought that maybe, just maybe, the answer may lie in corporations. Corporations aren't known for the betterment of society and humanity, but if 10% of the Fortune 500 would decide they buy food radically differently, only 50 companies, the world will change instantly. The opportunity for impact is so grand, I just wanted to use this stage to call out to every corporation, universities, other kinds of institutions who buy a lot of food. You have the opportunity to make a set of changes that will make such huge impact, they will take a stab at nothing less than world hunger, poverty, and global health. Interestingly, if you're a very large company in the sense that you employ many people, it could be that your impact on the world by buying food differently is larger than the impact you can make on the world with your core products. Think about it, right? It could also be economic for you. Maybe by behaving like that, you'll be able to attract the kinds of talent that maybe you're struggling to attract today. So buying food that does not include animals maybe ends up being cheaper. Protects and supports farmers, etc., but doesn't sound impossible if enough huge corporate buyers. I mean, what reason could you have to not take a stab at that? In summary, the future cannot simply be a continuation of the present, and radical change is needed. The first Food Labs flagship space is going to open later this year, but we're already hard at work on the few next locations that I cannot disclose yet which cities they're in. Reach out to us if you're interested in getting involved in any way, shape, or form, foodlabs@wework.com. And the team, the Food Labs team is all here. They're all, most of them wearing these kinds of shirts, so they're easy to find. Grab us. We going all in. We are committed to the change. If no one joins us, that's fine. We're going to just figure it out ourselves. But I do have to say that we feel very, very lonely in that position of radical change in how we buy food. Will you join us? Will you try to encourage others to join us? Please do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Roee. Is anybody inspired now after lunch, after hearing that? Yeah? I think often sometimes you get that little after lunch lull a little bit, but I think Roee kept us on track and ready to keep going with our afternoon sessions. I'm so pleased for this next session to introduce Christy Middleton, who will be moderating the panel. Christy Middleton is the author of Meatless: Transform the Way You Eat and Live, One Meal at a Time. She was previously with the Humane Society of the United States, where she helped build and lead a team of food service professionals working with food service management corporations and institutions, including campus and university dining, across the country to help them incorporate more plant-based options into their menus. Her work was covered by the Los Angeles Times, Civil Eats, San Francisco Chronicle, and Politico. And she recently actually began a new position at what was called Seattle Food Tech, but I've just heard that they've rebranded to Rebellious Foods. And if you'll help me welcome Christy to the stage, along with the two panelists who will be joining her, who Christy will give you more information on. Please help me welcome Christy and the panelists.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you all. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here today. This is my 5th Menus of Change conference, and every year it seems better. It's like a family reunion. Some of you are probably running the other direction when you see me. But before I get started, since as Jackie mentioned, we have this post-lunch lull, does anyone know what the chickpea said when she ate much of her bento box? I falafel. Thank you. There are more where that came from. So a lot of work goes into putting on a conference like this, and I just want to give a big shout out to the organizers of this. Can you all please help me give a round of applause? Thanks. So Jackie gave a little bit of background. I was previously with the Humane Society of the United States, where I helped major food corporations and institutions with getting more plant-based options on menus. And we also were working on improving animal welfare in the corporate supply chain. And about a decade ago, these issues were really not at the top of mind for anyone in the food industry. But something really started to shift, and that is consumer sentiment. Because of documentaries like Forks Over Knives and Food Inc., people really started thinking about where their food came from, how it was produced, what happened to workers and animals, and they really did start to think that they don't want animals to suffer for their food. Regardless of what was going to end up happening to those animals at the end of the day, they did not support the inhumane treatment of all animals, including farm animals. And I think that the companies who are sitting on this stage with me today really were the leaders. We have the food service management industry to thank for trailblazing and being the first to adopt policies to improve animal welfare in their supply chain. So when I talk about the issues that have affected animal welfare, there are 3 main issues that companies have addressed, and that is intensive confinement. So when I talk about intensive confinement, I'm referring to egg-laying hens who are typically confined in what are called battery cages. The vast majority of egg-laying hens are confined in cages that are about the size of a desk drawer. 5 to 8 birds are confined inside. They don't have enough space to spread their wings. They can't take dust baths, lay their eggs in private nesting boxes, or do anything that's natural to them. Mother pigs are confined in what are called gestation crates, where they are virtually immobilized for the duration of their pregnancy, unable to even turn around. And veal calves, most people have heard about this, are typically confined in what are called veal crates, where they're tethered by the neck, unable to turn around for their entire lives. Another issue is of broiler chicken. So if you aren't familiar with that term, that's the term that's used by the poultry industry for chickens that are bred for their meat. And because our poultry consumption has dramatically increased, so too has the rate at which those birds grow. They now grow very large, very quickly, and that results in crippling leg deformities. Their organs can't keep up with their bodies, and they live very short lives, but lives full of suffering. And they're not mandated by the Federal Humane Methods of Slaughter Act, so their slaughter is often very grisly as well. And lastly, on a much more positive note, another issue that a lot of companies are addressing is getting more plant-based options and fewer animal-based options on their menus, because there's no way that more humane society and continue eating animals and their byproducts at the current levels. And so these are the main issues that the companies that are joining me on this stage have started to address, and now hundreds of other companies have as well. And they did it before it was mandated by law. Now 11 states have passed laws that have outlawed some of those practices, and 3 states have actually passed laws that will make it illegal to sell products from confined animals. These companies did it before they had to, and I think that they are due a lot of credit for that. So I'm really excited today to have a conversation with Julia Jordan, who's the Director of Sustainability for Compass Group North America. They've been tremendous partners of the Humane Society and now my current company. And Julia has also been on the Menus of Change Business Leadership Council since its inception. Also joining us is Carolyn Gahn, who is the Director of Sustainability for Aramark Higher Education, and she's at the University of Kentucky, where they also have been doing incredible work supporting local farms and getting more sustainable and humane products on their menus there. So the way that this is going to work today is they're both going to do a quick overview of the work that their companies are doing. We'll have a short conversation, and then hopefully, if we have enough time, we're going to take some questions from the audience using the Slido app. So please join me in giving them a warm welcome. And Julia, if you don't mind first giving us a quick overview of everything that you're doing at Compass Group.
Of course, yeah. Compass Group serves about 10 million meals a day, so we have an incredible responsibility to do the right thing. We're intensely focused on leading in the sustainability space. So when we make a change, others tend to follow. We pride ourselves on really being a company of firsts. We were the first food service company to announce our purchasing of cage-free shell eggs. I believe it was the second Menus of Change where we started to adopt the principles of healthy, sustainable menus. We were the first food service company to announce our partnership with Gap to really, transform the welfare of broilers within our supply chain. We've partnered with the Humane Society on their food forward culinary training. We've also have a commitment to double our purchases of humanely raised animal protein by 2020, and have been intensely focused on, integrating more plant forward, products and recipes into our business.
Yeah, fantastic. As you said, tremendous purchasing power and therefore a big opportunity and responsibility. Carolyn, how about you all at Aramark?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm totally energized to be among a group of people who also believe that you can change the world through food. I'll start by saying that first choice for the panelists for Aramark. So our first choice was our VP, who couldn't be here today. But I'm taking her place and speaking more about, on the enterprise account level, how we're making change. So as Christy mentioned, my work is focused at the University of Kentucky and spans into the region of other Aramark accounts. My expertise is in local food systems. I started my career in food 10 years ago as a beginning farmer. I was in my early 20s and was having a, existential life crisis about my purpose in life, and, financial meltdowns were happening, environmental catastrophes, and, food was where I thought we could change all of that. Food has the power to revitalize economies and environments, and I think when we grow, cook, and eat together, we can define or redefine our culture. So I've spent the last 10 years learning about the business and practice of farming, learning about how agriculture has shaped our local communities, teaching my children about life through the lens of nature and food, and learning about the food industry as a small business owner. And so now I'm able to put that all together into practice at my work at the University of Kentucky, where I would argue we have the most progressive and innovative dining program in the country. We source from local farmers, and we serve our students the freshest ingredients possible. And my hope is that I can help them develop their culinary palates and help them develop an appreciation for food and health. Aramark's enterprise animal welfare commitments and innovative plant-forward initiatives are part of a bigger conversation about how we think about our meals. In my work at UK, I have initiated Aramark's signature farm-to-table programs, the local salad bar, and the whole animal program. These programs are game-changing in institutional local food procurement. With the whole animal program, we source 4 grass-fed cows, 5 pastured hogs per week, all from local farmers. Salad Bar commits to purchase 24,000 pounds of organically grown produce to serve on our salad bars, all from farms within 100 miles from campus. So these programs aren't only game-changing in that they make forward contracts with farmers, a commitment to buy for the entire year, but it has completely shifted our chefs' mindsets of how they plan their menus. So they are used to pick their recipes and then order their ingredients. Now they have their ingredients and they have to plan their recipes. Our menus are based on the season, and our chefs are utilizing all cuts off the animal. So we are reducing food waste by utilizing the entire animal carcass and by strategically planning our produce needs so that we are not overcommitting and overbuying, and our farmers are not overproducing. UK Dining just recently joined the Farm Forward Leadership Circle for our commitment to source Global Animal Partnership Step 4, beef and pork. We're the first campus in the country that has committed to both proteins. And then we just recently won the Local Procurement Hero Award at the Midwest Regional Sustainability Summit. These 2 programs, along with the other $2.2 million that we spend locally, are engaging the entire value chain and stimulating development within the local food system. We have yet to do any formal research on the impact that our purchasing has had on the economy, social, environmental, but what I do know is that there's a new food and ag story being written in Kentucky, and it involves us all growing, cooking, and eating together.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that overview, and I'm excited to visit your campus since you're bragging that it's one of the foremost in the nation. Yes. Indeed. So more level, I talked about 3 main issues that the food service, I guess the entire world now is really making top of mind: confinement, broiler chickens, more plant-forward cuisine. Can you all talk about why your companies adopted enterprise policies on those issues? And we'll start with you, Julia.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, with the confinement and the broiler issues, it just felt like, how could you not do something? When we heard that the broilers are unable to walk, are having heart attacks, have a whole host of health problems because they're bred to grow quickly, to be top-heavy, this is a no-brainer. We knew that we had to take a stand and do something. With Plant Forward, we've adopted it for a lot of different reasons. It's impossible to ignore the benefits that Plant Forward has not only on somebody's health, but the planet as well. There's been a lot of talk over the past day and a half about the Lancet report, and we know that we need to start reducing our consumption of meat for us to be okay as a society. So we've had vegan and vegetarian options for so many years, and with the Plant Forward strategy, it's really about grabbing that everyday meat eater and encouraging small shifts in their daily habits. I think it's less intimidating for people to kind of make those small incremental changes instead of just feeling like something's being, completely taken away from them. Someone said it yesterday, I think during the general session, that the important thing is less meat, better meat, and I definitely think that that's key in our journey.
Okay, thank you. Carolyn, can you speak from Aramark's perspective?
Sure.
Why these issues?
Yeah, our success starts with and relies with listening closely to our customers and our clients. So we focus on quality, innovation, and health and wellness. We look at research too, so our primary research is done through our proprietary panel, and then we look at secondary research done through industry-leading resources. We elevate Aramark experiences by developing new offerings with a focus on fresh, exciting, and innovative concepts that incorporate technology and seamless consumer interactions. The Twisted Beet dining concept is our first plant-forward concept that we just launched. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but we always come back to our mission to enrich and nourish lives. So the question that we ask ourselves when considering like what issues we need to prioritize is how are we helping the community, from our employees to our clients to our supply chain partners. Are we assisting our stakeholders in making healthier choices? Are we reducing the impact on the planet? Are we supporting strong local economies? We have a 270,000 base of committed team members that, we're all in this collective effort to be successful by doing well. So using the University of Kentucky as an example, it's how we need to balance client expectations with our enterprise goals. So the university has a strict local food procurement mandate within the contract because they feel strongly about supporting local farms, considering how agriculture has impacted the history of Kentucky and the university. But that language doesn't include anything about other sustainability criteria or goals. And so when I'm purchasing products, I have to use critical decision making to decide what meets both the client goals and our enterprise commitments. So, I'm looking to build the local food system infrastructure. I'm looking to give farmers a fair price for their products and lift up disadvantaged farmers. And then I'm looking to uphold our Aramark sustainable sourcing commitments and waste reduction commitments. And when those three things come together, we get the whole animal program and the salad bar program.
Yeah, well, it is the first choice to be here, but I think when we talk about things from an enterprise level versus the on-campus implementation, there are varying degrees of your ability to actually implement what the corporation wants to do and what the goals are. So it's very helpful to have that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of the goals and milestones, I think we're at this really interesting place where many corporations have now set goals and timelines and milestones, and this is where the rubber actually meets the road and things are actually starting to happen. So I'm curious about what you're doing on either a daily, a weekly, or monthly, or even annual basis to ensure that the goals that you've set, whether it's for broiler chickens or for confinement issues, how are you ensuring that you're actually able to meet those goals? Yeah, and maybe we'll start with you this time, Carolyn, and then go to Julia.
Yep, we have a longstanding commitment to uphold sustainable sourcing practices that minimize the impact on people, animals, and the environment. So we're constantly evaluating our sustainable sourcing priorities to identify the most significant environmental and social issues within our supply chain, and driving significant shifts with commitments to purchase humanely raised proteins, sustainably caught seafood, locally sourced fruits and veggies, chicken without antibiotics, fair trade coffee. So we've made measurable progress across several animal welfare goals, including being cage-free shell eggs since 2015, and we'll complete our liquid egg transition cage-free by 2020. So because of the strong partnership with our clients at the account level, some of the biggest innovations are happening there. And so considering the work at UK, shifting institutional buying in this way truly does require that you bring all the stakeholders to the table. And then when there's a focus put on local sourcing, especially like single ingredient items, many other sustainability attributes are lifted up as well, kind of inherently in that. So it's not just a focus on animal welfare, but on community and environmental health as well. And so Aramark collaborates with NGOs and other industry experts to constantly evaluate our progress and to help us refine our approach. And then, is to expand our commitments globally in all the countries that we're operating in.
Fantastic. I support that. Julia, how about you all at Compass? How are you meeting those goals, and what are you doing on a daily or weekly, yearly basis to ensure that you're on track?
Yeah, with confinement, we're continuing to move the needle with our cage-free commitment. It's very exciting. We'll be introducing some group-housed pork products starting at the end of this year and then into next year and the following years. With plant-based, it's really wonderful. Each of our sectors are kind of embracing their take on plant forward in their own unique ways. So Restaurant Associates, who's the food service partner on campus, launched Not Junk Food, and it was awarded Best Menu last year by Food Management. And it's really fun, fast food style offerings of, buffalo, cauliflower nugget, jackfruit sandwiches. So really exciting, and I think gets the guest, really jazzed. Our higher ed sector has been, cutting beef offerings across all stations, which has been really fantastic. And all of our sectors have either a blended burger or a plant-based meat burger, meat alternative burger on their grill station. So we love, partnering with companies and finding new products to really engage our guests. With broilers, we've really been in lockstep with Gap. We had a meeting with them this spring to really talk about what does this look like? How do we prepare for 2024? We talked about some of the new things that Gap is releasing, like their marketing materials, which are going to be, instrumental in helping us tell the story. We're very anxious to get, updates on the new breed, and planning a pilot for the fall so that we can really get the product into the hands of our chefs and have them play around with it, and also hear what the guests have to say.
Would you mind quickly sharing what GAP is, in case there are people in the audience who aren't familiar with the program?
Yes, Global Animal Partnership.
And they have a animal welfare ranking program that's a 5-step program, unless they've added those to that. And the minimum ranking is ensuring that the animals are not intensively confined. Thank you for that. So both of your companies have announced partnerships with the Humane Society on getting more plant-based options on menus and doing culinary training. How do you ensure that you get the support from people on the ground? Because of course we know that there are the corporate policies and what actually happens in kitchens and the buy-in of the staff who are actually preparing the food, different things altogether. So what can you share about what you've encountered?
Yeah, we started in 2016 with our Veg Revolution tour. So this is an eating tour that our chefs get to go on of all the amazing plant-forward places in Los Angeles. I'm still really bummed that I have not been invited yet.
Me too.
So this started as a way to really kind of get the creative juices flowing for our chefs and really get them introduced to the plant-forward way of eating. And it's been so popular and has evolved into an online, chef education training so that they can really get a good understanding of how to create really delicious, craveable, plant-based items. So, we're really coming at it from all different angles and integrating that education, throughout the business.
Yeah, I think that's critical. How about at Aramark? How are you ensuring that the staff on the ground are supportive of the plant-based or plant-forward initiatives?
Yeah, we have partnered with the Humane Society of the U.S. to do, culinary plant-forward trainings with our chefs. So to get all chefs in the room, work on innovative new recipes, hands-on, and then those chefs go back and train other chefs. So through that, we've touched 1,200 chefs and then rolled out 200 new plant-forward recipes that we're incorporating into higher education, healthcare, and business dining lines of businesses. We just launched the Twisted Beet dining concept, and it's like a plant-forward spin on comfort food. So, things like meatball subs and mac and cheese, but with a plant-forward focus. And so, keeping it fun, keeping it interesting. We have a customer base that is super into what's new, what's hot. They want fun flavors. They don't want boring drab food. And so, like what's been echoed in the conference here is that this has to be interesting and this has to be tasty and healthy and check all the boxes. So that's what we're focusing on. And then, so we rely on like doing research with our consumers to make sure we're meeting their needs and getting them exactly what they want.
Fantastic. Yeah, focus on delicious, and you'll get them every time.
Exactly, yeah.
So I swear this is not a shameless plug, but as Jackie mentioned, I'm working now for a plant-based meat startup called Rebellious Foods. And of course, we're all, if you're in the food industry, you're hearing about Impossible Burger being on the menu at Burger King and the Beyond Burger at Carl's Jr. These plant-based meats, egg products, et cetera, are popping up on menus everywhere. And I know many corporations are trying to focus more on whole foods, plant-based or plant-forward, but I'm just curious, what do you all think of the plant-based meats, eggs, and dairies? And where do you see their place at the table? And we'll start with you, Julia.
Yeah, I definitely think that these products have a place in our business. We love being the first to kind of try and test and play around with new products. We've been working with Impossible and Beyond and Seattle Food Tech, and now formerly, for a while now, to integrate those products into our business. It's really fun to see the explosion of those products and kind of the infiltration down to fast food and quick service restaurants, and just for people to have more access to them. We had our annual Culinary and Marketing Summit this spring, and we hosted a panel for some of our seniors, so graduating college seniors and also some of our senior citizens, and started off the panel just asking about, kind of how they feel about these products. And there was this 99-year-old woman, very lovely, and she was not into it. Give me the beef burger. I don't want this, plant-based burger thing. And we did a sampling, and she loved it and thought it was really delicious and said that she would choose the plant-based burger over the beef burger, which was surprising. But I think, they can be polarizing if, someone needs, a plant-based product to kind of, slowly back away from some of the red meat, then it's a win, and there's place for it.
Okay. First, I thought you meant like a high school senior. 99. And how about you, Carolyn?
Currently 30% of our menu offerings in education, healthcare, and dining, business dining, are vegan, vegetarian, or plant-forward recipes. So in our research, we found that 60% of our consumers find vegan, vegetarian, and plant-forward options to be important. And so within that, half of our respondents said that they would prioritize plant-forward because of personal health reasons. But it was very clear in our research that they did not want meat eliminated entirely. And so, our 30% of recipes, vegan, vegetarian, plant-forward, plant-based meats provide the variety that we're talking about. We can kind of do really fun things in that area and add that to the main lines and kind of get it more mainstream. And so I think it definitely has a place in institutional food service, without telling people that we're taking their meat away. I think that's important too, for their comfort level.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of folks, the first time they've had an Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger or Rebellious Nugget, it could be considered the gateway to incorporating more plant-based options into their menus. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, we have about 5 minutes, so I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for audience engagement. So if you have questions and you want to use Slido to ask your questions, then you can go to slido.com, and it looks like we have a couple of them here. So maybe I'll go ahead and take the first one, which is, where can companies go for guidance on broiler chicken welfare policies? I know that you've both cited a couple of resources, so maybe if you want to share one and you want to share one that you found to be helpful.
Yeah, I think we've got some amazing partnerships with our, animal welfare NGOs. So GAP has been, extremely helpful. We have a wonderful partnership with the Humane Society, so I think there's quite a few different options out there to kind of get some guidance, because it can be kind of a challenging thing to navigate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and you mentioned Farm Forward. Do you want to maybe share a little bit more about what they're doing?
Yeah, I at the University of Kentucky, I work with Farm Forward as, to kind of provide guidance on what's the deal, with they follow GAP, so they are very versed in the different stages of GAP and what that actually means. Is there a big difference between GAP 1 and 2 with chicken? Is, what happens when you go from 3 to 4 with chicken? There's substantial differences in the production practices between certain levels. And so I definitely look to them to maybe even point me in the right direction for where I could find like a scientific research study. And we also have a partnership with the Humane Society to kind of provide that guidance.
Very helpful. I think the second question may be a little redundant, but I like this new one that just came in regarding how do these changes affect student meal plans. And I think that you could say the same of any of your plate cost. Have you seen any of these new initiatives actually having any impact on the cost of the food that you're offering? Julia, do you know?
Well, and that's why we're being very careful with and going, kind of very slowly with GAP to kind of work through all of those challenges, because students don't want to pay more for their meal plans. They're very cost sensitive, so it's important that we kind of figure that out. So going very slowly and working through that piece.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have any additional input?
Our meal plans haven't changed at all. People do not pay more because we source primarily GAP Step 4 beef and pork. That is on us to use business sense when we're doing this sustainable procurement. We can't just be going and buying GAP Step 4 beef tenderloin. We are buying the whole animal. So we're working, strategically so we get the best price so that we're not increasing costs to our students.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that there has been this misconception that serving more plant-based foods will be more expensive, and I think it can be depending on what you're putting on your menus, and it could potentially increase the cost of labor. But at the end of the day, fruits and vegetables, and certainly whole grains, beans, dried legumes, things like that are a lot more affordable, but you have to know how to cook them and prepare them deliciously so that guests actually are attracted to them.
Just to tap onto that, I think animal welfare issues and plant-forward initiatives just dovetail really nicely. So in our menus, we have GAP Step 4 meat, and it costs more. Even though we're buying the whole animal, it costs more. So it just is natural that we would have a smaller portion, and it becomes a plant-forward dish. Mm-hmm. So it just fits very nicely together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that they're not here today, but Oakland Unified School District, I live in Oakland, and a couple of years ago they started working with a local organic beef farmer, and they were only able to afford to use the beef by doing a beef and bean blend, and that actually also saved them sufficient money that they could use it to put more plant-based options on their menu. So finding these higher welfare ingredients or products and blending them is a really good way to, like you said, to dovetail both of those initiatives. We have just 1 minute left, so if maybe each of you could take 20, 30 seconds to share any key takeaways that you hope you can impart to the audience. Julia?
Yeah, I think, plant forward, we're really seeing it catch on fire, and like I said, the integration into quick service and fast food is really exciting. I think it's what people want to eat. It's what chefs want to cook. Mm-hmm. I think the important thing is to make it delicious and crave-worthy, and to not call it vegan or vegetarian.
Very critical. Yeah. How about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, I think recognizing that we're all in your various industries and jobs, just locate your stakeholders and together to towards these shared goals. I really can't stress enough that this change happens in action, at accounts, individually, but as a team. And so the issues might be different from place to place, like which things you really need to prioritize, but the stakeholders, If they're all at the table, then you can be successful in implementing change.
Thank you. Yes, it doesn't occur in a vacuum, and I will just share some parting words, and that is what a former director of dining shared with me and a bunch of other people, and that is to have the professional courage to do what everybody tells you can't be done, and there's nobody like the folks here in this room that can actually make these big changes happen. So please thank our esteemed panelists today, and I look forward to catching up with you all later.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Christy and our panelists. I think that animal welfare, as they noted, is definitely top of mind for a lot of consumers and obviously very central to this question around plant forward that we are discussing at Menus of Change. Switching gears just a little bit, but staying on the topic of management and sort of having, as Christy said, that professional courage, that I don't know, the extra drive you have to do things differently and to set out from the outset to do things differently. I'm so pleased for this next session where we are going to explore a little bit deeper into the QSR and CIA fast casual watch list that we referenced in the opening session. So no better person to moderate this panel than Sam Okus, who is the award-winning editorial director of Food News Media, which is the publisher of QSR and FSR magazines. He was obviously previously the managing editor of QSR. QSR has been recognized as a Gold Eddy Award winner by Folio and as Magazine of the Year by the ASBE Awards, which honor excellence in business journalism. Sam is also involved in the International Foodservice Editorial Council and the American Society of Business Publication Editors. Sam is going to give us a little walk through the fast casual watch list that we put together, and then also bring out some of the honorees of the fast casual watch list so that we can have a chance to talk with them a little bit more about how they approach this idea of plant forward in their businesses. So please help me welcome Sam Okus.
Good afternoon. How is everybody doing? I could probably talk loud enough without this microphone, and as it is, I'm going to shout into it anyway. So it was my pleasure to partner with the CIA on the QSR CIA Plant Forward Fast Casual Watch List. This was about 6 months in the making. The CIA reached out to us last year and said, hey, what do you think about doing something like this? I said, that's great. We want to be ahead of the Plant Forward Fast Casual trend. Not even a trend. I try to avoid that. It is a movement. This is here to stay. This is coming now, and we wanted to be ahead of the conversation that's going to happen around plant forward fast casual. Why is that? Well, that's because plant forward fast casual as the future, as what it has the power to do is it has the power to change how Americans eat in the mainstream. So while I'm thrilled to see what happens with chefs, with independent restaurants, with institutional food service, corporations, this is all incredibly inspiring. But one thing that also has to happen is you have to change how Americans eat in a quick service and fast casual setting across the country. I'm from rural Ohio, Athens, Ohio. Anybody ever been there? Bobcats in the room? All right. So the best restaurant there for fast casual is Chipotle. Love Chipotle. But, when we talk about what's going on in the fast casual world, we so often talk about what's happening in New York and Chicago and LA, which, of course, I'm really excited about what's going on in those cities, and my three panelists are all based in New York and have a lot to say about what's going on. But we have to talk about what's going to happen to get these kinds of concepts into the Athens, Ohio's of the world, where I grew up, where the best restaurant is Chipotle. Again, no knock on Chipotle. If you're here in the room with Chipotle, I love you. But we have to increase the options available, especially when it comes to plant-forward dining. So all of that is a long way of saying we wanted to come together with the CIA to put together this recognition of the brands that are doing the best job at taking plant-forward food mainstream. So why fast casual? Just quickly in a nutshell, I'm going to try to get through this really quick because I want to get to my panel. But we wanted to target fast casual specifically because fast casual restaurants are taking culinary creativity and packaging that into a scalable model that can go across the country. Sarah, I know from Panera Bread was here earlier. Panera Bread is hugely inspirational in doing this, right? Panera and Chipotle, they took it a step above. They enhance what you could do on a culinary level in a fast casual setting and then scaled across the country. And they changed the game forever. That really paved the way for fast casual at all. So we wanted to target fast casual brands, dining preferences, changing what is possible in a limited service, value-oriented, convenient setting. Yeah, I'm going to have trouble with the clicker too, huh? Okay, so who are we targeting? So we didn't want to just target the buzzworthy brands. We wanted to target also some of the bigger companies that are doing plant-forward menus well. So you will see Panera on the list, as well as many other smaller companies. We wanted to focus on regional brands and national chains, both coasts, everything in between, not just vegetarian, not just vegan, all kinds of restaurant concepts that are not necessarily saying you have to only eat plants, that's all we do here, but also the restaurants that are just emphasizing vegetables and plant-forward plant-forward foods. They're emphasizing them and making them the star and showing that you can do more with them than what we've done previously. And we wanted to catch from all manners of cuisines. I won't get in all the details, but we put together a big list. We whittled down the list with the help of our friends at the CIA to come up with that list. And what we want to accomplish with it is we want to show what is possible in a fast casual setting when it comes to plant-forward foods, how you can take this culinary creativity, you can institute plant-forward foods in a setting that can be scaled across the country. So you can see here why fast casual, I think, has the greatest amount of potential to do that, but you'll also see what I have here. You maybe can't read, that's a little small, but it's already starting to happen, especially with Impossible and Beyond at the fast food level, at the QSR level. You're already seeing some of this change start to happen, but I really think that's also partly because they are inspired by fast casual. They know what is possible because fast casual has proved it to be so. So who's on the list? We have 31 brands that made the QSR CIA fast casual, plant-forward fast casual watch list, kind of a mouthful. 31 brands, who are they? Wow, that was really underwhelming. You guys, this afternoon. It's all right, I wasn't going to tell you anyway. You have to go and take a look at the report. If you go to qsrmagazine.com/plants, you'll see it, but it's also in the Menus of Change report that you guys all should have in your inbox. We were thrilled to partner with the CIA on this, and I hope you go and take a look and see what brands are leading the conversation when it comes to plant-forward fast casual. But special treat now for you today. I do have 3 representatives of 3 brands on that list who are going to talk further about what is possible with plant-forward foods in the fast casual setting. So I'm going to bring them up onto the stage now. First, we have Becky Mulligan. Becky is the CEO of the Little Beet, based in New York. Welcome, Becky. We also have Justin Schwartz. Justin is the co-founder of Mulberry and Vine, also in New York. Justin, welcome. And then last but not least, we have Patrick Hellstrand, who is the CEO of By Chloe, based in New York. Patrick, come on up. You did that very efficiently. Good job, guys. Well done. We didn't even have to practice that. So we're going to just jump right into it. I wanted to get the 3 of these folks talking a little bit about what kind of innovations going on at their fast casual concepts and how they think plant-forward especially can be scaled. Justin, I want to start with you in terms of talking about how Mulberry and Vine came to be. What's sort of the origin story and why? I know you guys do have meat on your menu, but you really do emphasize vegetables and plant-forward foods as well. Tell me how this came to be, why this was the idea.
Well, there's definitely a long story. I'll keep it short. But I turned vegetarian when I was 8 years old. Subscribed to Vegetarian Times magazine, started cooking for myself, really just exploring that world. When I was 19 years old, I found my way to California. I grew up in upstate New York, and much like the founder of WeWork, I lived in a commune. So it was a school for holistic health and nutrition, and I studied under a man named Paul Pitchford, who wrote an amazing book called Healing with Whole Foods. Made my way to New York 8 years ago, where kind of Mulberry and Vine started. We knew there was a need in New York City for healthy, fast, vegetable-heavy lunch food. So we started it based on a need that we saw in the market. And this was really before all the fast casuals kind of popped up. We all kind of were born at the same time. And like you said, we do have chicken and fish on our menu, but 90% of the menu is vegetable-based.
Yeah. Becky and Patrick, you guys have both been on your jobs for a short time now, both of you about 6 months, I believe. I want to talk about why you both were compelled to take these positions, why you believe in these companies. Becky, let's start with you. You were previously with Starbucks, and now as the CEO of the Little Beet. What inspired you about the company? Why was this a position you were excited to take on?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I was with Starbucks, and I was there for 16 years, and I loved that company and learned a lot about how you can treat people and create a culture of people that are excited about what they do. So when the opportunity with the Little Beet came up, I thought, okay, I can help create and grow this culture within my restaurants, but also eat and bring food to people that I'm personally passionate about. The match of the way that we cook and what we were doing at the Little Beet fits so perfectly with my personal food philosophies and beliefs that I just thought, this is amazing, because accessibility to that food has been a struggle. And I think the thing that really pushed me is all my years with Starbucks, I traveled globally all over the US, and I would find myself choosing not to eat, especially in airports or other places, because I couldn't find something that I wanted to eat. And so reflecting on that, and the fact that with the Little Beet, we're positioned to be able to make food accessible and food that's good and tastes good and that's exciting, it was really just a match that was made. And I have not looked back. I definitely love my time with Starbucks, wasn't really looking to leave when I did, and I can't imagine not making the move forward with Little Beet, because what we're doing is so exciting, and I get up every day just excited to see what we're gonna do next, or think about how we're gonna move eating good food that's good for you forward.
Great. Patrick, you were, and so quite a pivot, because By Chloe is actually all vegan fast casual. What about this company was something that you were excited about to take the helm of?
Sure. It's not a huge departure in that. So with Oath, we became the first and only certified humane pizza business in the country. And then before then, with Equinox, actually did a deal with Juice Press, where we scaled that across the entire portfolio on the East Coast and a couple other cities. So, and I've always been in and around food, and I've for the majority of my adult life. So it's not a foreign concept. What I loved about By Chloe, I lived in New York when they opened their first restaurant in Greenwich, and it was sort of incredible to see the gravity that a completely unknown little onesie concept had. So even back before I even considered ever joining the company, I sort of observed the excitement in the city, and then sort of followed, obviously, the trends over time. And I loved the idea of being able to, as with Oath, work for a company that has a very different positioning and are able to appeal to a broader demographic, which we're able to do with our business. And as anyone who's running a restaurant company knows, it's incredibly difficult to build a restaurant business and scale it. And I felt By Chloe had not only the right idea in terms of the approachable spin on sort of American classics, but fully plant-based and vegan, which supports sort of our sustainability efforts and also my personal beliefs, but also the right people in the mix to be able to build a sustainable business. So those are some of the reasons.
You talk about broader demographic. It's interesting because, I think when people talk about plant-forward foods, often many will confuse that with vegetarian or vegan. You guys are vegan, but the conversation around what's happening with plant-forward obviously is not confined to that, and so you're trying to reach a broader demographic than simply vegans and vegetarians. For all of you, I'm curious about how you do that. How do you use fast casual to emphasize plant-forward foods? Justin, maybe we'll start with you, because you are a chef as well, and I want to hear more about, from a chef mentality, what's the right approach to the menu that makes customers not think, ew, vegan food, but they just think, oh, plants, they can be delicious?
Sure. So we were very careful from the beginning to never position ourselves to represent one specific diet. However, we do list all of our ingredients and the dietary indications in plain view for the customers, so everyone can come to Mulberry and Vine and know that they can get a vegan meal, they could get a vegetarian meal, and it's very obvious. All the food is laid out in front of you to see that it is a plant-forward menu. We serve chicken and fish on our catering menu. We serve a little bit of beef, but it's very apparent that it's vegetable-based, but you can see the chicken, you can see the salmon, you know that you can get those things if you want. So you can go with your office and everyone can kind of cater their own needs.
Sure. Well, you also, I was just eating at Mulberry Vine yesterday, you guys have you have a charred avocado. So when you think about avocado now, everybody's doing avocado toast, but you guys took it the next step. I mean, you did something a little bit more playful and creative. People understand avocado, but you elevated that and made it even more interesting, creative, and delicious. So it seems like that's something that you can do in a fast casual setting that maybe you don't always can't get away with in some other restaurants.
Yeah, and people absolutely love that dish. Everyone gravitates towards it. It's a charred avocado with a Greek yogurt pumpkin seed puree in it. So it's attractive to the eyes and delicious and something that's a little bit unique for people.
Becky, what's going on at the Little Beet as far as the menu and how you guys are being creative with vegetables and plant-forward foods and keeping it kind of fresh and creative?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of things. I think first I'll mention, though, around the menu in general, we are 100% gluten-free, which sometimes people are like, wow, well, can it be good, or is there something for everybody there? And that's something we won't ever waver from. So it makes it really easy then to do creative, exciting things with vegetable. So we start from a premise of vegetables are beautiful. They're beautiful to look at. They're wonderful to cook with, and they taste amazing. So my chefs are always looking at what is going to look beautiful, taste great, and then have a great story behind it. We do serve animal proteins. We think about how we're sourcing them, where they come from, and how we create a portion size that is different than what you might get in some other restaurants, but that fits well within a balanced dish. And so with all of that, we focus on a core value in our organization, which is food knowledge. And teaching our team how to talk about vegetables or talk about something we're doing different with the menu, we found that our guests have a lot of trust and just a lot of, they put a lot of belief in what our team is telling them. And so every time that our chefs are coming up with a new dish or we're doing something seasonal, we spend quite a bit of time talking with our team about it and bring them along on the journey, going out and doing a little bit of a road show and making sure that they feel comfortable talking with everybody. And I think that keeps the approachability, even if we're doing a vegetable or something that might be foreign to somebody, or a dish that's unique. If the team's talking about it, that's helping our guests kind of consume what that is and feel good about it. And so our approach is of course, the best vegetable, teach our team, and then never waver on quality and serve a great product.
Patrick, I know with By Chloe's menu, you guys often will sort of take an indulgent item and make sort of this vegan, plant-based version of it. What is resonating with By Chloe customers in terms of how you get them sort of engaged with the menu and how you can kind of, attract them with something that comes across as a burger but is also vegan?
Yeah, I think the success of the company really spans from in 2015 when I say sort of vegan was transitioning from being weird to sort of cool. And we're very much about plant-based food, and our food happens to be vegan. But we're also very specific about inviting everyone into our stores. We don't prescribe a certain lifestyle. We clearly believe that the best path forward for us and our company is a plant-based vegan option. But we're really trying to get people in who aren't necessarily exposed or trying vegan foods. And I think the way we do that is by creating a brand that doesn't necessarily come across as anything different from what people would distinguish as just a great, interesting, food brand. And we actually have a lot of people coming in, trying our food, and not realizing that it's vegan food until they're eating the food and looking for sort of the meat. And in some cases, even finishing the burger, not realizing that there was actually no meat in it. But I think it's just doing food that is indulgent, but you don't have to feel bad about it for lots of reasons. One, we produce all our own food. From a sustainability standpoint, there's nothing to feel bad about. And quite frankly, just making it really delicious. So I think we would try to take a pretty simple approach.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, what's so appealing about the fast casual model is its potential to scale plant-forward foods. By Chloe and the Little Beet have scaled outside New York. Mulberry and Vine, I know you have 5 locations the three of you being in New York, you're at the epicenter of trends and developments, and I think New Yorkers are probably pretty forgiving with letting, eating whatever you guys are putting on your menu. But you are all interested in scaling beyond New York, and a couple of you already have. But what's the biggest challenge to scaling a plant-forward fast casual? Becky, I'm sure you're thinking about this a lot. You're getting ready to open a lot of stores.
Yeah.
What's the challenge to this part of it to scale something like this?
There's a couple distinct challenges. I think the two biggest being sourcing. The way we want to source produce across the U.S., it gets a little bit more challenging. Especially, we love to have local produce and making sure that we procure that in the right way. The second is consistency. We do chop everything every day. We make everything from scratch every morning. And being able to make sure that we have the right leadership, quality control, that our culinary team is able to have an eye on the quality of food everywhere is challenging. For us to get to our location in Miami from New York and in DC, we have people traveling quite a bit, and we're continuing to work on how do we do that in a responsible way, so we're not flying and driving everywhere all the time, but that we are keeping the quality that we want everywhere that we go. And then also the way that we hire and teach our core values and stuff when we are opening new restaurants. So as you mentioned, we have quite a few coming, both on our full service restaurant and our fast casual. Fast casual is growing the fastest. And we're often going into neighborhoods where we might have team members that haven't experienced food knowledge or eating well, or what catering to our customers' dietary needs means. We want to be able to talk about, if I'm vegan, I can eat vegan. If I don't want dairy, but otherwise I'm okay, then I don't have dairy. And that is challenging to get them excited and to educate them. But we're determined, and we have a lot of stores opening the rest of this year and a really lofty pipeline for next year. My grand vision is that we bring great food to everybody in the U.S. and possibly beyond in an affordable, accessible way that everybody can feel great about. And so we're focused on that.
Yeah. Patrick, what's the experience been like for By Chloe as it's grown?
I actually think it's more difficult to scale a plant-based vegan business if you're doing things the right way. Because if you're serving protein, you can buy sustainably sourced broccoli and certified humane chicken across the country today relatively easily. You can also buy a lot of the processed, pre-prepared alternative proteins across the country, but we don't take that approach. We actually make all our food from scratch, more or less. So our patties, our meatballs, etc., is all made by us. So that presents us with a logistic challenge. Okay, how do you get that across the country? So because we've opened in London already, we have 3 stores. The third one opened yesterday. We have another one coming in a couple of weeks. We're opening in Toronto. We already have a store in LA, Boston, Rhode Island, and we're opening more across the country. We've sort of learned how to do that, but it's materially more difficult if you take the path of producing your own food, which we do, but we think that's the right approach. One, because of controlling quality and taste and staying unique. And also economically, as you scale the business, I think that's the right approach. But it is more difficult than if you were to just, be a traditional restaurant.
Yeah. Justin, what are you thinking about as you thinking about growing Mulberry and Vine, both within New York and outside?
Definitely agreeing both of these guys that scaling is incredibly hard if you're doing a plant-based menu. People have told us that we should try pre-cuts for vegetables. We've tried pre-cuts, and it's just so wrong for us, for our brand. If you're pushing vegetables, you have to be cutting them whole. It's the best product. So something that makes me a little apprehensive or nervous about growing outside of New York is what Becky was saying, is sourcing. I have to find all new vendors. I have to find new insurance brokers. The whole game is different. We're very safe and comfortable in New York. We know the players there. Going into another market is a whole new start over, kind of. But we want to try.
Yeah. So much of the conversation in QSR today has been around Impossible and Beyond, and certainly in other partnerships and vendors that are out there to work with on being able to incorporate plant-forward foods. What is all of your mentalities toward working with partners to do this, to accomplish this, versus going all in, doing it all by scratch? Is there a right way to be able to scale this with partners that you think is maybe beneficial to your brands? Maybe Patrick, start with you and your decision to go all by scratch.
Yeah, I mean, when we started, there wasn't an alternative to go that route because it didn't really exist. Having spoken with a number of those players and seeing what's happening in the space, I think it becomes very ubiquitous if you use that product, and I think it's hard to stand out. I love the fact that those products exist. I think it's introducing new people into eating differently, so I think they're sort of helping the tide, which ultimately I think will rise all ships. I think as an individual, choosing that path puts you in a position where it may be hard to distinguish and differentiate yourself over time. So I think it's tricky. If you're a very large player and you sort of are forced to reinvent yourself because you're falling behind, I think that's a different conversation. And economics of a deal like that is a different conversation at all versus being a small restaurateur. So I think producing your own food as you would in a normal restaurant setting, so you can stand apart and create an identity, I think is really the way to go. But we don't have anything against the food. We don't support it through our system. We probably never will. I think, however, there is an opportunity that there's a lot of really great intermediate products in the market that can make it easier for restaurateurs to get into food production. Using alternative sort of protein sources. I think those products are fantastic because you can create your own, and creating your own from scratch protein alternatives is very difficult, particularly as the market keeps enhancing in terms of quality. So I think that's a huge need and a great space to play in. The fully processed finished products that you can buy essentially in the store in CPG, I'm not sure that's the right model for restaurants.
Sure. Well, we do only have a couple minutes left, so I do want to jump into one last question before we do wrap up. I'm thinking 5 to 10 years out. The last couple of years have been pretty eventful as far as the plant-forward movement. There's been a lot of change, both with companies like Impossible and Beyond, but also just the rise in fast casuals that are showing American consumers what is possible with plant-forward foods has really started this movement, I think, and given it great momentum. But where do you see the next 5 to 10 years going? What do you think the American consumer is going to want from plant-forward foods? Becky, let's start with the American consumer wants. Is the little Beet going to give it to them?
Yeah, I think the next 5 years, the play there is convenience of great food, right? That is made from scratch every day. I'm really right now focused on talking to a lot of different guests who have different needs. For example, if I want to pick up food on the way home for my entire family, where do I get that? How do I get that? Is it convenient for me? So I do see that as really the next big thing. And what a lot of us have talked about in some of these earlier sessions of fast food is really accessible, but is that the way that we need to eat to have a sustainable earth going forward, as well as humans? So I really think that'll be the place where we can change it, and where we can just create that accessibility and convenience and still maintain the amazing quality of the food.
Justin, what do you think? And putting your chef hat on for a little bit too, thinking about specific foods that you could even see becoming more popular.
I mean, 5 to 10 years from now, it's amazing to think who the customer will even be at that point. They're kids now, and they are going to want something so different than we could ever even anticipate right now. So it's sustainability, sourcing, being ecologically responsible. I think these are things, and transparency, which I think is something that is going to be demanded of us more and more as this movement grows.
Patrick, what do you think for the next couple of years, and how is By Chloe going to approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Becky's point, in fast casual, convenience is super important, but I think quality will continue to prevail, and I think processed foods is processed foods, whether it's meatless or not. So I think there will be a continuous shift to more great food, which I think fast casuals, like our concepts are producing, which we produce our food, we know what's going in it, we pay attention to the source of it, and I think that's the way forward. And it takes a certain amount of complexity in the back end, but I think restaurants will continue to become better and better at solving for that.
Yeah.
I think consumers will keep asking for it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I do encourage you, we don't have time for questions, but I do encourage you to find our panelists afterward and ask them questions face to face. I know each of them would be happy to answer any questions you have. Let's give them a round of applause to thank them for their time. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again to Sam and our panelists. I think one thing that really stuck out to me as I was hearing about that, I believe it was Justin who was just saying, we don't really know, we can try to project, we don't really know what people are going to want to eat in the future, but I think we have a good sense of the production practices and the values by which they're going to eat. So whether the hot trend is going to be African cuisine or the hot, vegetable is going to be kale or whatnot, we may not know, but I think it's a fair bet to say that people are going to want their food to feed their bodies in healthy ways, as well as feed the planet in healthy ways. So I think that's a great takeaway from the panel. We've got another round of amazing breakout sessions for you next, which means I get to go back to my fun little map here. We're going to be having a networking break first, sponsored by Land O'Lakes, and then the breakout sessions will be starting in their locations at 3:30. So don't of your badge what you're signed up for. So again, we've got the red circle showing us where we are now. If you're in B1, you're going to be in the Danny K. Theater, which is on the other side of Roth Hall. If you're in B2, this is that tricky one again, you're going to be in the Ecolab Theater, but in the Admissions Center, not this Ecolab Theater. If you're in B3 or B4, you're lucky. You just go downstairs and you're already there. And if you're in B5, you're going to be in the McCann Education Annex, which is also right by Danny K. Theater. And that is all. Sorry, let me just double check. Oh, B6. It's my clicker issue. You're going to be in the multipurpose room down by the egg. Again, once you go out, we'll have lots of people wearing gold badges or some other way to distinguish themselves to lead you on the way. So please go find them to help you get to your breakout sessions. And then we'll be back here after your breakout sessions at 5 p.m. for an amazing final general session talking about the business case for sustainability. Thanks very much, everyone.
This is a recipe for beet tartare with a quick cured egg, a modern take on an old classic. Combine the fish sauce, Worcestershire sauce, oyster sauce, honey, hot sauce, garlic cloves, and ground mustard. Place the yolks in the marinade. Cover and marinate in the refrigerator for 12 to 24 hours. These beets have been roasted, peeled, and diced. Combine the beets with the mayonnaise, Tabasco sauce, cornichons, capers, and scallions, and toss gently to combine, and hold refrigerated. Add a small amount of oil to a cast iron pan. Cut the peeled shallots in half and sear flat side down until they begin to caramelize. Set aside. To plate, use a round cutter to form the beet tartare. Place an egg yolk in the middle. Garnish with bruleed shallots, radishes, asparagus spears, dill tops, and microgreens. Finish with dots of Hellmann's Real Mayonnaise. Here's our beet tartare with quick cured egg. Enjoy!
Here's a great way to put produce at the center of the plate in the middle of winter. Watermelon is available year-round, and because it's a member of the gourd family, it lends itself very well to pickles. In this recipe, I'm going to use the watermelon rind and pair it with some global flavors and some spice. This is a watermelon rind massaman curry with winter vegetables. To start the curry, heat the oil in a saucepan over moderate heat. Then add the garlic and the shallot and stir until it's fragrant. Add the curry paste and the chili paste or the chili flakes and stir it for about 10 seconds. Remove half a cup of the top of the creamy layer of the coconut milk and add that to the pan. Stir and cook until the paste is bubbly and the oil begins to separate. Add the remaining coconut milk, soy sauce, onions, and watermelon rind. Reduce the heat and simmer until the onions and the watermelon rind are soft. Add the remaining vegetables in the water and cook for another 4 to 5 minutes. Adjust the seasoning with fish sauce, sugar, and lime juice. Next, lime leaves and the basil and serve immediately over jasmine rice. This easy dish is full of warm Indian spices that will be sure to have you enjoying watermelon all year long.
This dish is a fun take on a classic gratinée, Hollandaise crusted cauliflower, seasoned with cheese and mustards. Cut the cauliflower into florets, then toss the florets in a mixing bowl with oil, hot sauce, thyme, garlic. Place on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper and roast at a 425-degree oven until the florets begin to turn golden brown, about 15 to 20 minutes. Remove and set aside. Meanwhile, combine the panko, parsley, lemon zest, and cheeses, then season with the combine the Knorr liquid whole and Dijon mustards. Place the roasted cauliflower in a preheated cast iron pan, top with a hollandaise sauce, and sprinkle with the breadcrumb mixture. Roast for another 10 minutes or until the breadcrumbs are golden brown. Here is the finished dish. Enjoy.
If you find yourself throwing away watermelon rind, please don't. I'm going to show you how to candy it, and this is a recipe that you can make throughout the year. I'm going to cut the watermelon rind by removing the green peel and all of the flesh from the inside, then cut it into 3-inch by 1/4-inch pieces. I mix the salt with the water and I soak the rind overnight at room temperature. Drain the rind, rinse it well, and then cook it in fresh water until it's tender, which should take about 5 minutes. Drain it and set it aside. Next, I'm going to put the vinegar and the spices and sugar into a pot and boil it for 5 minutes. I'll add the rind and then boil this until the rind is clear. I remove it from the heat and let it stand at room temperature until it's cool. After I drain the rind, I'm going to place it onto a sugar-coated pan and cover it with more sugar. Let this set out for a day at room temperature uncovered. The next day, shake off all the excess sugar and store it in an airtight container for up to 2 weeks. You can use the candied watermelon rind as a garnish for cocktails and drinks. You can dip it into chocolate for a sweet, sour, and salty snack, or you can use it as a garnish for cakes, tarts, cupcakes, and cookies.
This is a light, refreshing dish featuring sustainable seafood, Alaskan black cod with a grapefruit relish and an avocado cream. In a bowl, whisk together the grapefruit juice, soy sauce, mirin, miso paste, and black pepper. Marinate the cod fillets for up to 30 minutes. For the relish, char the jalapeno over an open flame. Once cooled, seed and mince. Combine with the diced grapefruit segments, scallions, sugar, red wine vinegar, and olive oil. Season to taste and refrigerate until ready to use. To make the avocado cream, combine the avocado, garlic, yogurt, Hellmann's light mayonnaise, chili, and lime juice in a blender. Blend until smooth. Heat oil in a non-stick sauté pan over medium heat. Pan-sear the cod until opaque and beginning to caramelize. To serve, place the avocado cream on the bottom of the plate. Top with the fish and the grapefruit relish. Garnish with microgreens. Here's our finished dish. I hope you enjoy.
Here's a recipe that's sure to impress your guests. I've used 2 types of watermelon in this recipe, both red and yellow. Yellow watermelon tends to be a little bit sweeter than red watermelon and creates a beautiful color contrast. Watermelon juice to create an interesting dressing. You can make this recipe a day ahead. So let's make our watermelon and avocado mosaic with Dungeness crab salad. Place the watermelon into a blender and blend until smooth. Let this juice sit refrigerated for 1 to 2 hours until the solids have settled to the bottom. You want to decant the clear liquid from the top, leaving the solids behind. Next, you'll want to take the decanted watermelon juice, the gelatin, the lemon juice, and the salt, and bring this to a simmer until the gelatin is melted. You may want to skim as necessary. Next, we'll make the mosaic. Place a piece of plastic wrap at the bottom of a mold. You may use some spray or some water to hold the plastic in place. I'm going to alternate pieces of the red and yellow watermelon along with the avocado inside the mold, leaving a little bit of space in between each piece. Next, I'm going to pour the gelatin over the mold, making sure to barely cover the watermelon and the avocado. Place this into the refrigerator to chill and let it set for an hour. To make the crab salad, gently squeeze the crab meat to remove any excess moisture that might remain. Place the crab meat, the lemon zest, the mayonnaise, creme fraiche, and chives into a mixing bowl and gently toss this together until combined. To plate the salad, remove the mosaic from the refrigerator and then remove it from the mold and place it on your serving dish. If desired, heat a spoon or the edge of a knife and smooth the edges of the mosaic. To finish the dish, I'm going to place the crab salad on top of the mosaic and garnish with microgreens. I hope you'll find this watermelon and avocado mosaic with Dungeness crab salad visually appealing and fun to make.
Here is a dish with spiralized sweet potatoes, clams, and a creamy Asian sauce. Using a spiralizer, sterilize the sweet potatoes into long, thick noodles. Cook the sweet potatoes in boiling water for about a minute or 2, drain and set aside. Heat the vegetable oil in a wok over medium-low heat. Add the sweet potato noodles, stir frequently and cook just until tender. Remove from the wok and set aside. In the same wok, add a little oil, add the clams, turn the heat to medium, add the garlic, ginger, and chopped chili pepper. Add coconut milk and Knorr Professional liquid concentrate base. Add turmeric and fresh lime juice. Cook until the clams are open, remove, and then set aside. Reduce the broth until it's thick enough to coat a spoon, and season to taste. Add the noodles back into the sauce, toss gently, and then add the clams to combine well. Place the noodles and the clams on a plate, sprinkle with furikake, cilantro, and sprouts. Garnish with lime. So here is the finished dish. Enjoy.
If you find yourself with an excess of watermelon, turn it into juice. People are rediscovering fermented beverages these days, and here's a delicious recipe for making a watermelon shrub. Heat the sugar and vinegar on the stove, stirring constantly until the sugar is dissolved. Add the watermelon and simmer to release its juices and flavors into the syrup. Cool the mixture and strain out any solids. Add water to taste. Place the mixture into a glass jar and allow it to rest in the refrigerator for 4 days covered. This can be blended with alcohol or other flavors of your choosing to make a delicious beverage. So here's our watermelon shrub. I've garnished it with a watermelon wedge and candied watermelon rind.